Hi my scholars, this is my school channel and my name is Abiola. For this video lesson, we'll be solving the JAMB CBT past question for the subject biology, the year 2021. Do not go anywhere, stay with us and we'll be right back. Welcome back to my school YouTube channel, and for this video lesson we are going to solve questions 1 to 20. So join me as I start with question 1. One of the functions of the xylem is what? Okay, so we know that the xylem is a water conducting tissue, through the roots and the stem, to other parts of the plant, like the leaves. Okay, so we've seen that the xylem is responsible for water conduction, right? As well, it serves the strengthening function, especially in plants that undergo secondary growth. And when you talk about the cell types that make up the xylem tissue, you are talking about the tracheids, your fiber, your vessels, and your parenchyma. Okay, so one of the functions of xylem is what? Is strengthening the stem. So the correct option here is option A, the strengthening function. Question 2. Which of the statements below is not characteristic of wind pollinated flowers? Okay, so when we talk about pollination, it's transfer of pollen grains from an anther to a receptive stigma. It could be self-pollination or cross-pollination. Okay, so when you talk about pollinators or pollinating agents, you talk about wind, you talk about water, you talk about insects, other animals like birds, bats, and the likes. Okay, so the main pollinators that we should study or look into, they are the wind pollinators, okay, the wind and the insects. Okay, so there are quite some distinct features that we can observe when it comes to wind pollinated flowers and insect pollinated flowers. So we are looking at characteristics associated with wind pollinated flowers. Okay, at first let's look at statement A. The stigmas are usually large and feathery. This is very correct. They are also exposed so that they can actually catch, the pollen grains as they float in air. Okay, so stigmas are usually large. They have large surface area and they are feathery. Okay, this is just for them to be able to catch the floating or the wind dispersed pollen grains. So option A is a characteristic of what we have here. So let's look at B. Nectar is usually absent. Very well, because nectars, they are sweet. So nectar's scents, they are absent when it comes to wind pollinated flowers. So option B and option D is still correct. They are correct regarding wind pollinated flowers. Nectars is actually to attract insects. The scent as well. They pick up these chemical molecules and it attract them to the plants, okay, or the flower that needs to be pollinated. So let's look at option C. So we validated option A, option B, and option D. So let's see option C. Okay, the pollen grains have rough spiny surface. This is incorrect. We know that pollen grains of wind pollinated flowers, they are actually small, they are light, they are dry, and they have smooth surfaces, not spiny surfaces, smooth surfaces. Okay, so this place, okay, it negates the characteristic, or is not a characteristic of wind pollinated flowers. So the correct option is option C. The pollen grains have rough spiny surfaces. Option C is the right option. 3. Some of the features of an animal are scales, teeth, nerves, and backbone. The animal is likely to be a what? Okay, so when you talk about backbone, we're talking about vertebrates. So if I want to bring out the groups or the classes, okay, regarding vertebrates, you talk about your Pisces, you talk about your aves, you talk about your reptiles, your amphibians, and mammals as well. Okay, so we've settled that. Okay, so all of these vertebrates, they all have backbone. So we still have to streamline this presentation. So let's talk about the nerves. That is for nostrils. Okay, so very well. Then we look at teeth. All right, so if I want to do that, I know that birds, they do not have teeth. Their jaws, okay, they have just been somehow structured to be a toothless beak you see that toothless beak. So this is out of the presentation. Okay, then we'll now talk about teeth. We're talking about teeth, then scales. Okay, so we would have considered birds, but because of the absence of teeth, that is gone. We know that we're talking about toad. Those are amphibians. You know, amphibians, they are actually animals like your toad, your frog, your salamanders, and the likes. Okay, they actually have naked, moist skin, not scales. All right, so that has removed or eliminated this from the option. So teeth, remove this from the option. This, remove this from the option. Scales, remove this from the option. Then talk about rats. Scales as well, eliminated this. But when you come to lizard, reptiles, your lizard, your turtles, your snakes, and the likes. Okay, so they have scales on their body. You know, these scales is actually to prevent water loss. And of course, they have teeth. Yes, they have teeth. They have nostrils. Okay, the nails. All right, and backbone. Okay, so the animal is likely to be a reptile, a lizard. So option C is the right option. 4. Choose the sequence which represents the correct order of organisms in a food chain. Okay, so let's examine A. Okay, so we have grass to snake, snake to toad, toad to grasshopper, grasshopper to hawk. Okay, this is incorrect because you can see this relationship here. Then this implies that the toad is feeding on snake. That is incorrect. Okay, so this is gone. So if you look at the functional groups in a particular food chain, you know, you have at first the solar energy as a source of energy, of course. 2, the primary producer. Then you have your primary consumer. Then next, the secondary consumer. So we see that arrangement. So this is gone. So let's look at option B. We have the grass to grasshopper. Okay, so the grasshopper feeds on the grass. Then we know that toad actually insects, right? Grasshopper. Then we know that snakes actually eat toad, right? Okay, and as well snakes also eat other snakes. All right, so then we know that hawk, eagles feed on snakes. So this is very good. Let's look at this line of this chain. So we have grass to grasshopper. Okay, we are still good. Grasshopper to snake, then to toad. Oh, this is incorrect. Okay, so the toad has to come before the snake. Okay, let's look at the option D, the chain there. We have the grass, we have to the snake, then to the grasshopper. So we don't have the grasshopper feeding on the snake. Okay, so then the toad on this, these orders are incorrect. Okay, so the correct order or the correct food chain here is presented in option B, from grass to grasshopper. You know, your primary consumer, then we have your secondary consumer. So option B is good to go. 5. Flatworms and roundworms are said to be invertebrates because, okay, so when I come to kingdom Animalia, I know I can actually do 2 groups, right? The vertebrates and the invertebrates. Invertebrates with no backbone. So we have several phyla when it comes to the invertebrates. You know, we have the phyla of Porifera, we have the Plathyemytes, right? We have the nematodas, okay, nematodes. We have the mollusca, right? We have the arthropoda and the likes. Okay, so flatworms and roundworms, you know, they are said to be invertebrate because they have no backbone. You know, some of them, they can be free living or they can be parasitic, right? So basically, the reason why they are referred to as invertebrates is because they have no backbone. So option D is the most appropriate option. Question 6. When a spirogyra cell is immersed in a salt solution more concentrated than its cell sap, it does what? First, your spirogyra, we know we are talking about a kind of cell that exists, right? And filaments. Okay, so it belongs to the phylum of Talophytes or Talophyta. You know, we're talking about algae. So this is a simple multicellular plant. All right. So coming to spirogyra, you know, you now immerse it in a salt solution that is more concentrated than its cell sap. In that situation, what you have is that osmosis will occur. But the kind of osmosis we are looking at exosmosis, right? So water molecule is moving from where you have more water content to where you have less water content. That is, of course, osmosis, right? But in this situation, the environment is hypertonic compared to the internal environment. So the salt solution is hypertonic compared to the cell sap. So what will happen? Water will move from the cell sap to the environment, okay, so that we can have this whole thing well set up. So we have that itself, it does what? It loses water and shrivels. Okay, so in this case you can see, so shrivels means it wrinkles, as water is coming out. So the environment is hypertonic, so water will move from the cell right to the environment. That is exosmosis. So the correct option here is option D. It loses water and shrivels. Question 7. Which of the following is not regarded as a pollutant on land or in the air? All right, so that is nitrogen. Okay, so when you look at nitrogen, you're talking about a non-metallic element, right? And that is the most abundant element, okay, in the Earth atmosphere. You're talking about 78% of air, and of course, nitrogen as well is a constituent of all living matters. So nitrogen is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas. So it is not a pollutant. So it is the most abundant, okay, element we have in our Earth's atmosphere. So option B is the correct option. Do not forget that you can practice using any of the Myschool tools. All you just need to do is to click on the link in the description below. This is going to get you to the Myschool website. Right there you get to download the Myschool mobile app. Or you can try out our Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Okay, so join me as I solve question 8. The initial volume of water poured into a bag of dry soil was 50 milliliters, okay? And the amount that drained through was 35 milliliters. Okay, so the percentage water content of the fully soaked soil is therefore what? So all we just need to do is to use the formula loss in mass, okay, over the mass of fresh soil. This is what I mean. So we know that 50 ml was poured, 35 ml was drained off over the 50, right, mass of the fresh soil times 100%. Okay, so I know 50 year 1, 50 year 2. So basically I have 50 minus 35, that is 15, right? So 15 times 2, I have 30%. So the percentage water content is 30%. Let's go back to the screen to select 30%. Okay, so we have it as 30.0. That is of course the correct option. So D is good to go. Do not forget to encourage us by hitting that like button. Also click on the subscribe button and always tap the bell notification for you to get informed immediately we upload the next video content. Question 9. When the original king and queen of termites die, they are replaced by what? They are replaced by developing nymphs, okay, nurtured as secondary reproductives. These secondary reproductives, we are talking about the reproductive that have the tendency to replace the original king and queen. This original king and queen, you actually have them as male and female reproductive, right? At the onset of raining season, they just fly off. They take off. Several of them take off from the particular termitarium. So when that occurs, then we have this thing that we call swarming. The nuptial flights, whereby they just pick themselves in pairs. A king and a queen. They just come together to start off a new colony. Then reproduction, start mating happens, then reproduction, fertilization, and the like. So several kinds of termite casts are being formed. So when the death of the king or the queen occurs, you can have the developing nymphs, okay, the secondary reproductive to replace them. So the correct option is option D for this question. 10. In demonstrating the importance of mineral elements in plants, right, the culture bottle or the culture vessel must be darkened to do what? Okay, so you can actually work on the culture bottle, by actually painting it black, all right, or using a black paper to cover it. This actually prevents the growth of algae. Algae, they are actually thallophytes. So we're talking about simple green plants that are aquatic, so they need water, and as well they need sunlight, for photosynthesis. They contain chlorophyll. Very good examples of thallophytes, you talk about Spirogyra, your volvox, and the like. So the correct option is option A, to prevent the growth of algae. 11. In the mammalian respiratory system, exchange of gases occurs in the alveoli. These are tiny sacs around each bronchiole. Okay, so right here, this is where gaseous exchange takes place. From here, the oxygen from this surface, the walls of the alveoli, these walls of this surface, they are very good respiratory surface. Okay, so surfaces, so from here, the oxygen coming from here will diffuse into the blood, and the CO2 in the blood will diffuse into the sac. You can see this. So this is where the gaseous exchange takes place. So if you want to look at the structural order, yeah, very well. So we'll take it from the windpipe, then we have your lungs, right there in your lungs we have bronchus, a bronchus here, a bronchus here. The plural is bronchi. So each bronchus now branches into bronchioles. Okay, so it is in this bronchiole that we now have this alveoli attached to each of them as many sacs. So the correct option here is option D for the alveoli. That is where the exchange of gases take place. Option D is the right option. Number 12, aged erythrocytes are destroyed in the what? Okay, so we know that the lifespan of erythrocytes or red blood cells, we're talking about 3 months averagely. Okay, so if we take that into consideration, we see that these erythrocytes, once they are worn out, they are being engulfed by the phagocytes, all right, in the spleen. Okay, so basically, if you want to look at the function of the liver, or one of the functions of the liver is that alongside with the spleen in adults, right, in adults, they actually deal with this, okay, the deformation or the destruction of aged or worn out red blood cells. So the liver and the spleen, that is where we can put forward our solution. Then let's consider option A, the pancreas. We're talking about pancreatic juice like your lipase, like your trypsin, the lymph nodes, in conjunction with your immune system, for body defense basically. Then kidney, we talk about excretion. All right, so excretion, body defense, digestive paths or pathways. So option B is the right option, the liver alongside the spleen. Okay, that is where the destruction of worn out or aged erythrocytes or red blood cells occur. So option B is the correct option based on availability. 13. The villus in the small intestine is significant because it increases the surface area for absorption of nutrients like your glucose, your mineral salts, and the likes. Okay, so that is what's that. The small intestine already, the surface area is large so that it can absorb these nutrients, okay, cutting from food that are broken down. So the presence of the villus now adds to the surface area, or it increases, just let me take it as the option puts it, okay, it increases the surface area for absorption. So the correct option is option A, it increases the surface area for absorption. 14. Which of the following food substances will produce a brick red color when warmed with Benedict solution? Okay, we are talking about simple reducing sugars like glucose. Okay, so if you want to test for starch, you use iodine. Okay, egg whites, you can use your Millions reagent, or you use the burette test. All right, maltose, we are talking about, you can use your Fehling solution or your Benedict solution. Okay, so for this distinct coloration involving Benedict solution, either brick red or orange red, you are talking about your test for simple reducing sugar like glucose. So option A for glucose is the right option. 15. The blood vessel which carries blood from the alimentary canal, okay, to the liver is the hepatic portal vein. Okay, we should note that the liver here is the only organ that receives the double blood supply from the heart. Okay, one from the hepatic artery right here. This carries oxygen-rich blood to the liver. All right, this is for digested soluble food, from the small intestine. That is via the plasma. Okay, so right here, then once the digested food, okay, gets here, then the liver releases it for distribution to all other body parts. So this is responsible for blood that contains digested soluble food from the small intestine, or we have alimentary canal here, okay, to the liver. Okay, while the hepatic artery is another supply chain or supplying pathway, okay, that carries oxygen-rich blood to the liver. So like I said earlier, the liver is the only organ that receives double blood supply from the heart. Okay, so let's go back to the question. The blood vessel which carries blood from the alimentary canal to the liver is the HPV, the hepatic portal veins. Option C is the right option. Question 16. Which of the following is true of the process of conjugation in paramecium? Okay, so we know paramecium is a unicellular organism, though complex compared to amoeba. Okay, so the process of conjugation, this is a form of sexual reproduction. All right, so where two cells come together and they are just you can refer to them as conjugants. Okay, a cell is acting as a gamete, okay, a whole cell is acting as a gamete, the other one too as a gamete, so they come together, and there's this kind of cytoplasmic bridge that is formed between them. Okay, so that is conjugation. So each one of them is referred to as conjugant. So you can see my both ends. So this hand, conjugant A, conjugant B. Okay, so let's make that happen. So which of the following is true of the process? So let's look at statement A. All right, micronucleus disintegrates. Okay, this is incorrect. Why? Okay, so in paramecium we have the mega or the macronucleus, then we have the micronucleus. Okay, so the macro or the mega nucleus is responsible for the normal activity of the cell. You get that? And then the micronucleus, when it comes to reproduction, sexual reproduction or division along that line, that is where the micronucleus comes in. All right, so we have the micronucleus disintegrates. This is incorrect. Why? Because once the process of conjugation kicks off, okay, it is the macronucleus that actually disintegrates. Okay, so under the process of meiosis, okay, each diploid cell, left and right, A and B. So each diploid cell, it contains micronucleus. All right. So under the process of meiosis, the micronucleus here will divide into four haploid micronuclei or nuclei, okay, wherever we want to call it. So this is out of it. So we are referring to macro or the mega nucleus disintegrating first. Okay, so let's go to B. Each X conjugant divides only once. This is incorrect as well. After the whole process of exchange has taken place, then each conjugant or X conjugant, I said this is a conjugant, this is a conjugant, a separate paramecium cell, another paramecium cell, they have to undergo 2 rounds of binary fission, okay, to give you 4 daughter cells. So each conjugant, 2 rounds. You see that? So to give you 4 daughter cells. So not just 1 round, we have 2. So this is as well cancelled. Let's look at C. Macronucleus undergoes division. This is incorrect. This is the micronucleus that undergoes division. So if I want to continue where I stopped earlier, I talked about that each conjugant, right? So I said there is a micronucleus here, a diploid micronucleus here, right? Under the process of meiosis, okay, so it divides into 4 haploid cells. 1, 2, 3, 4 haploid cell. Do you see that now? So in that case, 1, 2, 3 will disintegrate. So I have just 1 haploid cell, okay, that is remaining in each conjugant. So just 1 each. So at this point, that is where mitosis occur, where this remaining haploid cell will divide again into 2. So I have 2 here. So there will be exchange of 1 from here to this place, then 1 from here to this place. We see that now. Okay, so macronucleus undergoes division. This is incorrect. It's the micronucleus that undergoes division. So let's look at statement D. Each micronucleus divides twice. Okay, this is very correct. So you can see from what I've explained earlier. So the correct option is option D. Each micronucleus divides twice. 17. People who suck petrol with their mouth run the risk of freezing in their blood the concentration of lead. Okay, so the exposure to lead has become higher due to its mixture with petrol. Okay, the reason why lead is actually mixed or included in petrol gasoline, okay, is actually to provide this octane. There's something we call octane number, right? So, and that's the main purpose of that is actually to prevent pinging or knocking of engine, as well wastage of gasoline or fuel. Okay, so once people who suck petrol, what they are doing is that they are increasing the concentration of lead in their blood. Okay, as well, like I said, due to the introduction of lead in petrol, you know, there has now been higher exposure, you know, both in the air, the dust, you know, our drinking water, even for food crops, and even on the soil surface as well. So these things hang around. Okay, so and this, like I said, it was actually introduced to improve the quality or the results we get from usage of gasoline. All right, so but looking at the risks of poisoning, what are the dangers associated with it? You know, it can lead to seizures, it can lead to coma, and in severe cases, it can lead to death. So even through sniffing it or sucking, there is exposure to lead. So people who suck petrol with their mouth run the risk of increasing in their blood the concentration of lead. So option B is the right option. 18. Which of the following is a measure for the control of bilharzia? Okay, bilharzia or schistosomiasis. Okay, so this is the kind of disease that's actually caused by freshwater snails. Okay, you can also refer to it as snail fever. Okay, so the symptoms of bilharzia or schistosomiasis, they include, you know, rash, itchy skin, you know, blood in urine, blood in feces, you know, muscle pain, abdominal pain, joint pains, and the likes. Okay, so how do we control this? Since we know that, okay, the intermediate host, they are the freshwater snails, what can you do? Okay, you can actually provide potable water, you know, sanitation. As well, you can apply, you can see, so if you want to control insects, the chemicals you are going to use, you refer to them as what? Insecticide. All right, you want to control pests, you refer to it as what? Pesticide. Weeds, you call it herbicide. So right here, we're talking about mollusks, you know, the mollusca. Okay, remember that phylum, okay, in the animal kingdom. So we're talking about mollusks. Okay, so the kind of insecticide you'll be using will be molluscicides, okay, in water boards, since they are fresh water snails. So of course, as well, you can also use medication for those who have been infected, okay, but you can use this to eliminate it from water bodies. So option B is the right option. Perhaps you have questions you'd like to ask. Please, all you just need to do is to tap on the link in the description below. This is going to take you to the Myschool website. Right there, you get to interact with our solution providers, and they are willing and ready to help you out. So join me as I solve question 19. The appendicular skeleton is composed of the pectoral girdle, the pelvic girdle, the forelimb, and the hind limb. Okay, so you know the division of the vertebrate skeleton. Okay, so we have the axial skeleton and we have the appendicular skeleton. So the appendicular skeleton consists of parts that actually articulate, okay, into or with the axial skeleton. So when you talk about axial skeleton, you talk about your skull, right? You talk about the ribs and the sternums. Okay, so coming back to the appendicular skeleton, you talk about the limb girdles, which involves the pectoral girdles and the pelvic girdles. You know, we are talking about the shoulder, yeah, then the limb, you know, the forelimb and the hind limb. So the pectoral girdle, the shoulder, then we talk about the pelvic girdle, which is actually around here, your waist. Okay, so the appendicular skeleton is composed of the pectoral girdle and the pelvic girdle, right? Those are the limb girdles. Then we have the forelimbs and the hind limbs. Okay, so the correct option here is option A. You may have better solutions or explanations. Please, we are so much interested. All you just need to do is to kindly use the comment section below, indicate the question number and the solution or explanations you'd like to share. 20. A freshwater plant such as water lily can solve the problem of buoyancy by the possession of parenchymal tissues. You know, these are responsible for buoyancy and flotation in hydrophytes. Okay, you know, so this is well supplied with air spaces, you know, air chambers. You know, gaseous exchange can take place from there, and as well, it uses the same avenue to provide buoyancy and flotation to such hydrophytes like water lily. So the correct option is option A for the parenchymal tissues. We've come to the end of this beautiful session, but definitely we have more content to come. All you just need to do is to always hit that like button for us. Also click on the subscribe button and always tap on bell notification for you to get alerts immediately we upload the next video lesson just for you.